Hello, hello. Can't believe it's Sunday again. Snuck up on me. Definitely snuck
up on me too.
Yes. So happy Sunday afternoon. Hi guys, I'll give you a moment to join. My name is Danielle. I am one of the owners of Amityville Apothecary, and I am here today to provide some basics, some nuggets of information about astrology. Today we're talking about Uranus, your hiney. the poor tragically misspoken name. I call it Uranus, which is an outer planet of astrology, and we'll talk today about what it is, what it does, and then the different personality types which associate with their zodiac, as well as the houses that your Uranus resides in. So hopefully you have your natal chart, which is your birth chart, that represents the timestamp of the moment you were born, the time that you iterated into this life, and it serves like a unique snowflake because each of the planets are positioned in specific mathematical layout and proximity to you and to all of the other planets, and there's nobody else with the same exact natal chart as you. So you are a magical snowflake in the best way, that you are unique and you're an energetic being, and it's all found in your astrological natal chart. You can glean a lot of insight from that. So my goal here in this series is to provide some basic information for you, just to focus broad strokes about what each of the planets do, what each of the zodiac signs represent, and what each of the houses represent, because those are the basic foundational tenets of astrology. And then from there, once you have that basic understanding, you can delve deep into so many different aspects of life, because everything's mathematical. You can get into supportive relationships mathematically. There's trines and sextiles and squares. So there's other mathematical aspects that are not comfortable, so that can create some tension. So that's like a 2.0. This is a 1.0. This is a Astrology 101 foundational free class to whet your appetite and help with the basic tenets of astrology. But then there's many talented astrologers that give classes to dive deeper, or we have tons of books that are available to dive deeper and understand more. But the purpose of this free summer series is to give you weekly insight to each of the planets, as well as the signs and the houses, so that you have a basic understanding. And then you can have some fun by not only pulling your own natal chart and understanding those insights and gleaning those insights for your own self, but also for your family members and for your friends, or for your business partners and relationships, or for your animals, or even for specific dates, because there's a lot of fun that can be had, and a lot of understanding that can be gleaned when it comes to interpersonal relationships and understanding each other, as well as understanding yourself if you're doing shadow work or just looking to dive deeper into your own psyche. You can find out more about your personality strengths as well as weaknesses, and things that you're intended to accomplish in this lifetime, and some of the skill set that you come into this lifetime with, and things that you're meant to develop. That is the broad pitch for why astrology is insightful and interesting, and why it's valuable to have a basic understanding. Because listen, whether you understand it or not, it doesn't matter. The moon is still affecting the tides of the ocean, and as beings that have over 70% water composition, it affects us too. So the more that we understand the subtle energies, the more we can harness that energy and use it to our advantage and understanding. So that is, there's tons of ways that you can get a free natal chart online. If you go onto Google, you can type in free natal chart. I know that cafeastrology.com is one that offers free natal charts, and it'll give you all of your different planets and all different placements. And I know CoStar is a popular app that people like to use. I use Time Passages app, and I've paid for the enhanced upgraded version. There's tons of resources available if you just do a simple Google. So today we're going to be talking about the planet of Uranus. So all of those things are all one and the same. The symbol for it is this cute little symbol, and it looks like a satellite dish, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the little circle, and then the cross of matter, and then some antenna on the end. It looks like a satellite dish. It's appropriate because Uranus is the planet of revolution and the modern age. So that includes, it harnesses the energy of awakening and sudden change, as well as like how we invent. So when the planet of Uranus was discovered, this is one of the outer planets. So the planets that I followed, that I taught about already, the sun and the moon are luminaries. Then I talked about Mercury, I talked about Venus, talked about Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn. Those are all personal planets. So those are the ones that are visible with the naked eye and the ones that are closest to us. So those have to do with direct implications and impact on our personal psyche and our personal personality and the way that we operate. The outer planets do too, but they're further away, and they take much longer to circle the sun in our solar system. So the time to transit for Uranus, it takes 84 years for it to start to finish, to go through all 12 zodiac signs. So it spends about 7 years in one zodiac sign. So right now Uranus is currently in Taurus, the sign of Taurus. So I'll talk about what that means for the collective in just a moment. So it represents what the outer planets represent. So I talked about the personal planets. The outer planets are Uranus. Then we're going to talk about Neptune. Next week I have off. So the following week we're going to talk about Neptune. And then the following week we're going to talk about Pluto, which is a dwarf planet. It's considered a dwarf planet, but it's highly important when it comes to astrology. And then there's also a little asteroid, which is also increasingly important, called Chiron. And that is your mortal wound, or your karmic wound in this lifetime. So we could talk about that too, because it's important to understand. But Uranus, so it was discovered in 1781, and it is the planet of revolution and the modern age. So what's so interesting about it is, since you can't see it with the naked eye, there was a professional musician who was an amateur astronomer, and he's the one in Bath, England, that discovered this planet by using a telescope. So it was kind of like a fluke discovery. And 1781, what you have to think about is what was happening in the world. So the Americas were going through the American War of Independence. Mm-hmm. And then a few years later was the French Revolution.
And that did not turn out very good.
Well, it was revolutionary times. So harnessing that energy, it is the planet of revolution in the modern age. So it rules electricity, technology, and everything on the cutting edge. It's also said to be the planet of astrology. So Uranus is associated with revolutions of all kinds, including the personal, political, and scientific revolutions. So often when somebody has Uranus in a heightened position of importance, for example, if it's like very close to your sun or very close to your moon, like it will have a more significant impact on your specific natal chart. as well as in key angular houses of your chart, which is the first house, the fourth house, the seventh house. Hold on. What's the house? The first house. What is that? Sorry, guys. Where is it? I'm looking for my notes and I'm jumping all over the place. The four corners of your chart. So the first, the eighth, the fourth, and also
The 12th?
the 10th house. Yeah, the 10th house because it's the top. So if it's in first, fourth, seventh, and 10th, those houses, then it might take on a heightened impact because they're at the critical points of your chart. Or if it's very, very close to your sun and moon and also the planet that rules your ascendant. So my ascendant is Sagittarius, so that if it's close to my Jupiter, because it's ruled by that, then it will have enhanced impact.
Oh, mine's close to Jupiter, but it's in Aquarius. It's in the 6th house. Though.
Okay, so we'll talk more about what that means.
When they're close together.
Yeah, so that means it's conjunct. If it's within like 3 degrees of the chart, then that means it's conjunct and they're going to impact each other. Because the thing is, the outer planets, because it's in a house for 7 years, it represents the energy of a generation and a big group of people. So if you're born within a block of time, you're going to share Uranus in the same sign. So it's going to be more reflective of how you guys think and operate as it relates to like what this planet does. So keywords are change, freedom, rebellion, individuality, chaos, progressive ideas, humanitarianism, invention, as well as astrology. So this planet shares a lot of the same qualities as the sign of Aquarius. Mm-hmm. If you think about all of the defining qualities of Aquarius, it's like thinking on behalf of the greater good and revolutionary change and the hell with convention, how can we think out of the box, sharing all of those traits. This is the planet that does that.
It just stares at Capricorn saying, nope, I don't want to hear any of these.
It doesn't like
rules.
Conventional structure. Exactly. So as you said, this is like the opposite of Saturn. What I talked about last week.
It just looks at Saturn, takes its baseball bat, and
this will just say, I don't want to do it.
No,
just
absolutely.
because it's been done that way doesn't mean I have to do it that way. And in fact, I'm going to take the opposite because your old way is old and I want to revolutionize.
It's stupid. It's old. It's arcane.
Yeah, that's the energy. That's exactly
That's
it.
why they're all about their freedom, because my book says freedom, genius, and the future.
Correct. So if it has a pronounced position in your chart and if it's associated, say, with your sun sign, it can indicate creative genius or invention or chaos, revolutionary. So, I mean, it takes many, many different appearances. So, while the inner planets, your personal planets, reflect your individual disposition, the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, as well as Chiron, they're in the outer reaches of the solar system. So they don't describe your personality as much as they shape a generation. So, for context of timing, I said that Uranus takes 84 years to circle.
Oh, I feel old just thinking about that.
It's a lifetime. It's a human lifetime. You know, Chiron takes 51 years to travel through the signs. Mm-hmm. Neptune, which I'll talk about during the next class, takes 165 years to circle fully around the sun.
Oh my God.
And Pluto, that little dwarf planet, takes 250 years. So it's broad strokes of energy that impact groups of generation. So it's like that musical Hair. And they're like, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
Oh,
like,
that one with the hippies?
Yep, that one. Yeah. So the age of Aquarius represents a generation as you're entering in, as the sun enters into that phase. Uranus, this whole block of people that are born during that 7 years share that energy of revolution and how they deal with implementing change. So the outer planets are harbingers of change, both internally as well as externally. So remember that old principle of like as above, so below, as within, so without. It's a hermetic principle. So, so this can definitely create revolutionary change for you. So that's what I have right here. They represent invincible and unstoppable cosmic force of change. So the current energies, as it reflects the entire collective, since Uranus is in Taurus right now, and it will change into Gemini in 2025.
That's 2 years from now.
2 years from now, yes. So right now, we're like midway through Taurus. It's moving through Taurus. And then Gemini, it'll take a period of about a month for it to actually like transition into the next sign. So around July of 2025 is when it's going to enter into Gemini. Mm-hmm. So we're in this for a while. So Taurus, Uranus is the planet of revolution, sudden change, and visionary progress, and spends approximately 7 years in each sign. With Uranus and Taurus, there is an innovative energy to be put into practical application. See, that's very Tauran because it's a material earth sign. So it's all about practical application. There can be sudden changes in finances and values for the society as a whole. So you have the rebellion and the revolution as it relates to Tauran principles, which is material items as well as money and comfort. So it might be turned on its head. So there can be sudden changes in finances and values for society as a whole, and once made, they will be long lasting. So it revolutionizes and then it sets a new path for that. So great progress can be achieved as a revolutionary approaches to saving the planet are considered and made manifest. This is a natural fit with the growing movement for conserving Earth's resources. So if you think about the heightened awareness as it relates to environmentalism and protecting the planet and coming up with different types of energy sources, that is very appropriate for Uranus being in Taurus because it's like the material, tangible use of the earth and resources as well as finances. How can we think differently about it and make lasting change? So that is the broad stroke for that. Let's see. Like I said, it rules electricity, technology, and everything on the cutting edge. So the sign of it, that little symbol that I showed, it's easy to think it looks like a little satellite dish. So, and Aquarius is like outer, I always say Aquarius is like outer space. It's fixed air. Air is thoughts and the way of like processing. And then they think on behalf of broad strokes on humankind, how to do things differently and out of the box. It's very Uranian. So it can include brilliant insight, flashes of light, how inventiveness, originality. So the opposite side of that is it can be like strikes of enlightenment, but it can also be like a lightning strike of chaos. So like you might find out about a betrayal. You might find yourself, with a pink slip or a career opportunity that was totally out of left field, or you might find out about a divorce, or you might win the lottery, or, so like things that are like life-changing and revolutionary, like a before and after, and like life will never be the same. That's Uranian energy. So you can look in your chart and see how you handle it for your age and your time period. So my time period when I was born in my natal chart, my Uranus is in Scorpio, and the house that it resides in is the 12th house. So as for me, this Uranian rebellious energy is going to affect things in my 12th house matters. So you can see where it resides in your chart. If you guys know what sign yours is in and what house it's in, let me know and I could focus on that.
Okie-doke.
So it says when it's prominent in a birth chart, like what I said, if it's tied or very close to another planet, it says Uranus is the mark of geniuses, idealists, iconoclasts, nonconformists, eccentrics, inventors, revolutionaries, and astrologers. So if you think about all of those unique individuals that you've known in your life, you'd be like, they were just so eccentric. They were so weird. They thought so crazy. But then like creative change came out of that. Like the world needs that. Even though sometimes it might seem a little crazy, they'll get that spark going. You got to think differently.
It's basically like the mad scientist of the solar
It can be the mad scientist. I like that. Uranus is the mad scientist. So what's yours?
So mine, well, it crosses with Jupiter, but it's in the 6th house.
In the 6th house. Okay, so remember that. We'll get up to the 6th house.
Even though Uranus is in, Uranus is in the house, like in the sign where it's supposed to be. It's in Aquarius.
So you have Aquarius. So it's at home in Aquarius.
But it's in the 6th house. So what is that?
So it's going to affect things that relate to routines and wellness, because those are matters of the 6th house. So that's the house of like.
And I actually I was able to. I took notes before I came here actually about.
So
Uranus
for you, it's probably going to be unconventional patterns or ways of doing things. So like you won't like tried and true steady behaviors. Like you'll like to make it interesting for you, because that'll keep your attention. But I don't want to get ahead and detract, so we'll talk about that when we get up to that. Let me go in this order and then we'll go through it, okay?
I'm just going to keep it.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just keeping it out.
To reference. So here's what it says. Uranus in the sign. So the sign that occupies in your birth chart determines the way that you and other members of your generation around the same age shake off the burden of expectation. So if there's societal expectations of certain groups, your group is going to share certain like ways of dealing with it. You're going to rebel against the established order, how you choose to liberate yourself from fear, and how you choose to express your most original self. So Uranus and Aries represent people born from 1927 to 1935. So think about Aries. It's that cardinal fire sign. It's fiery to begin with. And then you add the rebellious planet, you got a lot going on there. So you're feisty, indomitable, and impatient. You value your freedom to an extraordinary degree, because Aries is all about like the little baby of the zodiac, the self, it's like my interests. It's all about me. So you're a pioneering spirit. You're very brave at the core. Like you're fearless. You just are like, F convention. I am doing what I feel is right. When change is called for, you rush in. You prefer the risks of being impulsive to the so-called safety of the slow and sensible approach. That is not what you do at all if you have Uranus and Aries. You're intrepid and inventive, even if think about that burst of energy. It's a sprint, it's like a sprint out of the gate. So your enthusiasms may waver, like it's hot out of the gates, but change, you find it exhilarating and it excites you. So now Taurus is the next sign, Uranus and Taurus. So it's people that were born 1935 to 1942. Well, here we are 80 some odd years later, and it's 2023 and Uranus is back in Taurus. So Taurus is very materially grounded, but it's a planet of revolution, right? Mm-hmm. So once you admit that you want something and begin going after it, nothing can stop you. Your willpower helps you overcome obstacles, and you feel strongly about money and possessions, but you may suffer financial ups and downs. You gravitate towards concrete, innovative methods of making money. Mm-hmm. So Taurus is it's ruled by Venus. It's very affected by money as well as love. So you add that revolutionary, rebellious planet and that energy, and it's the combination. So you may think out of the box as to how to achieve those things, especially as it relates to money and material gain. Uranus in Gemini, 1942 to 1949. So Gemini is the air sign, and it's mutable air, so it's very communicative and insightful thoughts. So you're clever, inquisitive, nervous, chatty, versatile, and mentally restless. That's just Gemini. You deal with change by reframing it. So here it says you'd rather feel like an unconscious architect of your own fate rather than feeling like a victim of circumstance. Because your brain never stops, you gravitate towards original ideas and new ways of communicating, though you can be easily distracted. And you can also beware of procrastination because it's revolutionary and like you're always going, but like you have to maintain your focus if Uranus is in Gemini. Okay, so Cancer is the water sign associated with like nurturance and home and taking care of those types of matters. You add the planet, that energy, so you have an active imagination, you're always sensitive, which is very Cancerian, and your family life, which is so Cancerian, may be unusual because we're thinking out of the box, a little bit unconventional and revolutionary. Hi guys, I love that you're all joining. Hello. We're talking about Uranus, the planet of rebellion and revolution. So as much as you long for the security of a nuclear family, you also rebel against it. So if you're in traditional family structure, you may do things to like turn that on its head, to alter the structure, to become unconventional. Because again, it's taking that rebellious energy into its natural sign. Mm-hmm. So depending on what house, like if it's in the 4th house, that rules home. Mm-hmm. So if you have Uranus and Cancer in the 4th house, it's going to be like totally unconventional family life and structure. And like, so that's what Uranus brings to it. Uranus and Leo. Leo's the fire sign, the stubborn, fixed fire sign. Big energy. These are people that were born from 1956 to 1962. My parents were born in 1950, so that was interesting, the Uranus and Cancer. I'm like, all right, Uranus and Leo. Maybe your parents fit this bill, or you do. Assertive and freewheeling, ardent and talented. You enthusiastically throw yourself into creative endeavors. Remember, Leo is big, performative energy. It likes to be seen. Things that may excite this sign, offbeat love affairs. The more reckless, the better. Entice and excite you. And you approach times of change with gusto. But you can also be egotistical, imperious, and in a word, obnoxious. So be careful. Now, the Beauty and the Beast character of Gaston is coming on. Yeah. You know, no one acts like Gaston. No one like that's big Leo energy, and it's just obnoxious. So be careful with that. But it's big energy. Listen. You like a risk, you like change, you like putting yourself out there, you're very dramatic, but don't let it hurt you because it's rebellious. And listen, you love big, you feel big, don't make a big mess. Uranus and Virgo. Structured, disciplined Virgo is turned on its head with this. It's not comfortable. So it like goes, it's like an opposites attract, you know. So it's 1962 to 1969. If you were born during that, you have your Uranus and Virgo. So even though you have in the sign of Virgo a very acute and analytical mind, you rebel against routine. Virgo is very much structured by routine. So this is a rebellion against that. So especially on the job. So you have a need for freedom that will take you in surprising directions. So if you have a job that you have to do the same thing over and over, it's not going to serve you well. Your approach to science, technology, and health is both original and practical. And although you rebel against routines enforced by others, you're skilled at creating your own unique, individual, highly compulsive patterns that you follow. So it's like, you don't care what everybody else does. You're going to find what works for you. And you'll create your own groove because Virgo is associated with the house that rules routines and schedule. So this is 6th house matters. It's health and daily routines. So you may have a very unique approach to doing that in your life that's going to work for you. Meanwhile, other people will be like, wait, what? What do you mean you like eat, a sandwich in the morning? It's not breakfast, but you're like, it works for me.
Oh,
yeah. Like,
definitely explains that. I like to eat sushi every Friday night, and I always do it every Friday night. So there's that.
See? So that's like your routines. It might be totally off the beaten path, but it's like, it's your way.
Mm-hmm. It's my way.
So there you go. There you have it. So Uranus and Libra. Libra is associated often with the 7th house. So Uranus and Libra are people who were born from 1969 to 1975. So you're imaginative and artistic, although members of other generations may be appalled by your taste. So, Libra is ruled by Venus, which rules love, as well as money, as well as art. So, listen, I was born in 1975. Even though my Uranus is in Scorpio, I feel like since it takes a while to transition, I probably am a little bit affected by that transition.
Oh, so was my aunt was born in 1975.
Ah, there you go.
And she's a Libra.
See? Very nice. I have a lot in common with her then. So they may also be surprised by your relationships, both romantic and otherwise. They can be business relations, any friendship relationships, because you're attracted to unusual people and situations. Again, it's that rebellious energy of Uranus affecting Libra, which is all about partnerships and interactions, you plus others. So you like unconventional people, unusual people and situations. So in many ways, your generation is forging an innovative approach to relationships. So one that incorporates a high degree of personal freedom. Still, in these times of stress, you're happiest with a companion by your side. That's very Libra. You feel comfortable having someone by your side, but you might live in different countries. You might share different houses. Like it's not a conventional approach, and that's okay with you. Uranus and Scorpio. People born from 1975 to 81. So these folks tend to be deeply intuitive. Remember, Scorpio is a water sign. It's fixed, still water. So it goes deep, and it delves into what lies beneath the surface. So deeply intuitive and strong-willed. You're charismatic and determined, with unusual attitudes towards sex and death, subjects which are eternally fascinating to you. So remember, Scorpionic subjects relate to death, rebirth, and, everything that happens after death in that rebirth process. So estates, but sex is a big part of that too. So sudden infatuations and lengthy obsessions are a risk that you might be like really intrigued by. You might like that. It's like fascinating you. Also finances. You may find yourself with like sudden shifts in your finances. So you're resourceful and unafraid. When change is in the air, you choose to experience it deeply and consciously with an eye to the future. So that's very Scorpionic, that you're not one to shy away from transformative change. And even though it's challenging, you learn from those changes and you use it to your advantage because you have the end game long run in your sights. So that rebellious energy of Uranus coming in to revolutionize and like remove things that no longer work. It's like challenging status quo. How do we blow that up and transform it to new ways of getting it done with your eye on the prize? So, all right. The next one is Uranus and Sagittarius. So people born from 1981 to 1988 all share Uranus and Sagittarius. So the term, as I was going through this, the term "don't fence me in" kept coming to mind, because Sagittarius loves freedom. So you're very optimistic and free-spirited with large aspirations. It is the sign associated with higher learning and travel and expansion of spirituality and thoughts and cultures and additional education. So you resent anybody that is going to rain on your parade, and naysayers who denigrate your dreams, and you hate if somebody's like, oh, you can't do that, like by conventional means and trying to like hold you back. with practical concerns, that doesn't concern you. You're just like, yeah, no, I don't even know why you're talking to me about that because I'm like looking bigger. So you'd like to see the world, but not by following anybody else's itinerary. You will dance to your own beat, and you'd like to achieve spiritual enlightenment. But when it comes to structured, staid, strict parameters of religion, that's not for you. You're like, I'm going to take what works for me here, what works for me here. I'm going to leave what doesn't work for me there. And I'm going to take a little bit of this, and I'm going to go with what goes for me. Because that's what makes sense for you individually. So travel and education excite you. But again, you have to approach it in your own unique way. So you definitely, when change comes, you love it and you feel liberated. It's like very Sagittarian just to be like, yes, vive la France. You know, like, it is like Les Miserables, revolution, let's go, making positive change for the world. So, all right, Uranus and Capricorn is the next one. 1980, people born from 1988 to 1996. And remember, I say people being born, but also if you look at these periods of time, this is the energy which was affecting all culture during that time. So I'm going to date myself right now. It's fine, I'm old. I graduated high school in 1993. And it was the first few years of my college. So Uranus was in the sign of Capricorn. So this energy was influencing our whole planet at that time. So you're ambitious, responsible, and methodical. Because Capricorn is the earth sign that is like the little worker bee, the goat that will make his goal at the top and then just keep going until he achieves his goal. So already you instinctively shun the prescribed path and old-fashioned hierarchy of structure, which is associated with Capricorn. But again, here comes the Uranian energy that you're like, fuck the system.
Yeah, screw it.
Yeah, exactly. And that definitely fits that period of my life. I was an exchange student during high school, during my junior year. For a whole year, I went down to Venezuela as like a Long Island, New York girl. And I said to my parents, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go live in a different country for a year. And they're like, okay. And like, I did it. Like, that's very indicative of this energy. So it's like, who cares the way things used to be done? This is how it's being done now. So an energy of like getting stuff done, but not conventional ways. As a result, your career takes some surprising turns. If you can express your individuality within an organization or a system, great, because then you're navigating within a system. But if not, your deep sense of discomfort forces you to bring it to its knees and to create a new system. You are a force for constructive change. So that is very like the term indigo child. Like just because something's been done that way in the past doesn't mean that it's the best way, and it doesn't mean it needs to continue. So it's like, let's blow that up and do it a different way. Revolutionary.
Time change.
Yeah. All right, Uranus and Aquarius. So folks that were born from 1996 to 2003.
Me.
Here we go.
Me.
Yes, here we go. This is Uranus and Aquarius energy. You are tolerant, unsentimental, humanitarian, and inventive. So this is its natural state. So Aquarius and Uranus, they share all the same traits. So unsentimental isn't a bad thing. It's very logically driven. But it's logical to the point of what will make humankind better or more progressive or more inventive or like take the next step. So you take the emotions out of it. So it's very like for the greater good mindset. So definitely nonconformist and idealist at heart. So you love the weirdos. You celebrate individuality in others, and Many an oddball among your friends. So like if you have that, like you guys celebrate being quirky and unique and interesting, and it's a celebration of those unique qualities, which is a shift. That was not always the thing, you know. So amazing coincidences and strokes of luck characterize your life. Uranus works well in Aquarius. So when you embrace change, your world opens up. It works to your advantage because change is for the good and for the betterment. So you realize you're like, okay, this is good. If you try to resist it, you're going to come against roadblocks, and unhappiness is going to follow if you try to fight that. So don't resist change. Be open to change. And this is great for scientific and technological explorations and advances and thinking differently. Like think about like the invention of like the mobile phone. I was talking to my kids yesterday about it. When the mobile phone came out, we're like, why do I need a phone in my pocket all the time? Like why do I need to be so reachable? There was like flip phones that were a big thing. They didn't have cameras on cell phones.
Not yet.
No, like honestly, if I didn't talk to somebody before I left my house, then nobody can reach me. Then all of a sudden cell phones came out, so I was reachable. Then they said, oh, well, cameras are going to be added to cell phones. I go, that is the dumbest thing in the world. Why do I need a camera on a phone? It's like so dumb. Can anybody imagine not having a camera on a cell phone now?
I can't.
We wouldn't be talking right now. So, I mean, like, that's the type of technological revolutionary change that comes with thinking out of the box. For the betterment of humankind, or some may protest. So, all right. So the last sign, Pisces. So Uranus and Pisces represents folks that were born from 2003 to 2011, and Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac. So by nature, imaginative, talented, and intuitive, you are susceptible to strange dreams and psychic flashes. You have a deep sense of compassion and an attraction to unusual forms of spirituality, although you may suffer from feelings of alienation or isolation. At these times, escapism beckons you, and your willpower needs support. So you have to be careful that you don't revert to abuse of alcohol or substance as a form of escapism. Mm-hmm. Beware. It's just a cautionary tale of the energy. Art and spiritual pursuits provide very fulfilling paths for you. So, you know, both of my children were born with Uranus and Pisces. And they do think differently for a lot of these principles. Like, you know, I said, does it relate to them? It does. And even within them, like my daughter's Uranus is in her ninth house, and my son, similar to you, is in his sixth house. Mm-hmm. So the placements relate to different things. So we could talk about what that relates to really quickly, because I know we have 15 minutes left.
Yes, we do.
So I will go through what that means. So now we know like the tone of how Uranus affects each zodiac sign. So now you'll say like, okay, my Uranus is in this house. So for me, it's in my 12th house. My husband's is in the 6th house, and my son's is in the 6th house, and yours is in the 6th house.
A lot of sixes.
So we'll talk about that. My son's is in the 9th house, or my daughter's is in the 9th house. So the house, the position that Uranus occupies by house determines the area in life in which you can expect the unexpected. So again, it's that rebellious before and after energy, right? Mm-hmm. So wherever Uranus is in your chart, expect that there may be some sort of change related to that topic in your lifetime, that it's going to have a transformative effect. Mm-hmm. But it will lead to positive. But it may turn your former way on its head from how you were doing it. So it's like a before and after, that like once it happens, you can't really go back.
Yeah, I could deal with that.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's very Aquarian of you. I can deal with that. So, all right, Uranus, if your Uranus is in the first house matters are your personal self, right? So, you may have an unusual demeanor, and you strike people as being a true original. No matter how hard you try to look conventional, your attempts to pass for ordinary, they're already doomed. Time to time, out of left field events will turn your life upside down. So if the first house rules your personal self, expect the unexpected there. So like things are going to just throw you for a loop. But ultimately it will benefit you because it's going to make you stronger. It's going to teach you lessons. You're going to overcome it. So it's all about how we adjust, right? So Uranus in the second house. That's the house that rules your money and your possessions.
Not mine, no.
So, well, anybody's second house. So
well.
if you have anything in your second house, it's going to affect those topics are ruled by the second house. So money and possessions can come and go, arriving and departing with equal speed. So you may strike oil or you may go bankrupt. Your values can definitely undergo a sudden turnaround. So one minute you may be totally flush, and then the next minute you might find yourself like in entirely different circumstances. But you're going to be okay, but that's the nature of Uranus. Mm-hmm. All right, the third house. Third house matters. So this is all about your thoughts. So you have an innovative mind and a clever way of expressing yourself. So communication is also ruled by this. You could be a brilliant thinker or a writer, or you can be an absolute lunatic and a maniac. You don't know. You don't know. You could be either. So you may have unusual siblings. Siblings are also associated with your third house. So like you might have a weirdo sibling, but you may also have some volatility in your interactions with them. So travel is another theme that may be disrupted or interrupted if Uranus is in your third house. So watch that you don't become like a raving lunatic. Try to use it for creative and inventive good. Okay? Viva la revolution. So if Uranus is in your fourth house rules home and your foundation and your upbringing. So you may come from or you may create an unconventional family. Mm-hmm. That can come in many different ways, shapes, structures, whatever that means to you. You may have an erratic relationship with one of your parents, likely your mother or the most subordinate of the two parents. Like if one is more like strong as a parent, the other usually is a little bit more submissive.
Well, Cancer is usually the mother, right?
Well, the fourth house is usually the mother.
And then Leo is the father.
Right. So if you have a more dominant mother, then it would be your father. So whatever that feminine energy is in terms of role. So you may have an erratic or volatile relationship there, which has had a strong impact on you. Again, it's disruptive for the sake of change and growth. You may find it hard to settle down, and when you do set up housekeeping, and it's a very unconventional way of living mm-hmm. and behaving and setting up your life. Mm-hmm. So also professional changes may also affect your domestic life, because fourth house matters are your home, your family, your upbringing, your roots. Mm-hmm. So if you bring that Uranian energy, it's going to be disruptive and revolutionary change. Yep. All right. Uranus in the fifth house.
Leo.
Mm-hmm. So this is creativity and play and fun. The house that rules all of that stuff. So you have a wild creative streak and a very unpredictable love life. Because it's like little romantic flings, too, included in this. It doesn't have to be little. It can be just romantic flings. So you may be prone to love at first sight, and you like the bad boy. You like the rebel. You like the unconventional one. You're like totally about that one. Also about that, thinking about that disruption, sudden breakups may also be part of the big picture. Mm-hmm. So you go for the one that's no good for you. It may also end very badly. So, yeah. So your children may be very remarkable people, because your children are ruled in this house, mm-hmm. the fifth house. They may be very remarkable people, but you may, thinking about that Uranian energy, you may feel that your children they hinder or hamper your personal freedom. Because it's the family that rules, it's the house that rules children.
Well, that's what happens when you have children. Sometimes they get crazy.
So if you're like rebelling against the structure, like you feel tied down, just keep that in check. You brought these children into the world. So they're your little people. You can all travel together and homeschool them. They don't have to hamper you. So, all right. Uranus in the 6th house. 6th house matters is like work and routines and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And health. Yeah. So you don't mind working, but you oppose traditional structure of 9 to 5. And this, being that my husband's got his Uranus in the 6th house,
oh boy,
it fits him perfectly because he was a fireman and he's retired. But firemen have unconventional hours too, you know, like they'll work like 2 days on and then 3 days off, and that works for them. Whereas I like a different kind of schedule. But then also, there's all sorts of like odd jobs that he does. So it suits him because every day is different. And he's like, oh, I don't know. It depends on who calls me. It depends on what job I'm doing.
I guess I see that too because I usually have, because usually I'm busy only on Wednesdays, like usually my busiest day because I take voice lessons every day.
Okay. See, you have a lot of things with your schedule that work for you. Like you like all different.
It doesn't feel like a schedule. It just feels like a regular day. It doesn't feel as structured as I would think it is.
That's very Uranian. So you work and you keep busy, but it's like you're doing different things. So you manage to find unusual, even peculiar jobs. Even in your daily life, you do things in a unique way. Watch out because your nerves can affect your health.
Oh, yeah.
And you also would benefit from unorthodox healing techniques, you know, like incorporation of Reiki or acupuncture and like stuff like that. Yep, working with crystals as you're wearing your crystals, totally. So that's very Uranian. Okay, Uranus in the 7th house. That's all about relationships. It's the house that rules relationships. So you may marry an unconventional person, or you may create a freewheeling relationship that acknowledges in its radical format your need for independence. So you're liable to marry with lightning speed, but be careful because you can also divorce in the same way. It's very Uranian, so it's unconventional, it's revolutionary. You know, I know some people that are like, yeah, we're married, but like he lives in France and I'm here in New York, and like we meet up and we take trips and like, you know, so like most people would be like, wait a minute, what? He lives in Florida and you're in New York? Like what? But like it worked, you know?
Long distance relationship.
It doesn't even have to be long distance relationship. It might be like, you know, two people got married at a later date. They fell in love, they eloped, and they had 2 different houses, and they're like, yeah, we don't want to merge houses, and we like our privacy, so we're like married, and we'll spend like a few nights together, and then we'll just go to our houses.
That's a really weird relationship.
Yeah, right, but you know, but if it works for them, it's okay. It's like for them, it's very Uranian. All right, Uranus in the 8th house. Again, that's the house that rules sex, as well as birth, death, rebirth, transformation, and change. So your sex life has a remarkable, even outrageous aspect to it. And the same is true for your finances, and also may reflect your spouse too. You benefit from unusual investments, and you are drawn to many metaphysical subjects, especially the idea of reincarnation. So that is very like death, birth, rebirth, transformation, learning from our mistakes, and how do we grow. What is this saying? All right. So this, I never talk about anything definitive, but it's the energy of it. So as the 8th house rules birth, death, and rebirth, it may also reflect sudden death or accidental death. It doesn't necessarily have to be your own. It may reflect that in your lifetime you may be impacted by a sudden unexpected death that will have impact on your life. So if you have that placement in your 8th house, it's not saying it's a death sentence by any means. It will say because I believe your birth chart is like the blueprint of your soul that you agree to map out for your lifetime. It may mean that you have a soul contract with somebody, and during your lifetime, your life will be impacted by the sudden, unexpected death of somebody significant, that it will have a lasting impact on your life.
I've also known that Scorpio, when Scorpio, they have like a death wish, but it's more like an ego death, not like a...
Correct.
Not like
Death can come in many forms. So that's why Scorpio, the sign of Scorpio, has 3 different totems, animal totems. So the least evolved form of it is the scorpion, the animal, the scorpion, which is, but then the eagle is the more elevated animal totem, and then the phoenix, which rises from the ashes. Exactly. So, all right. So, don't worry. It says here, 1 in every 12 people has this placement. So don't worry. It's not something to worry about. Okay. Uranus in the 9th house. If Uranus is in the 9th house, that's all about higher learning. Sagittarian energy. So unusual experiences come to you through travel, education, and the law. So it's like structured hierarchies and higher things. So you're interested in religion, but not in a conventional way. And your philosophy of life is your own invention. So those of you who are really into like cultural anthropology and learning how all different people think, exist, thrive, live, you'll take those bits. You'll love to learn about everything as like a big melting pot, and you'll take impact and influence from all of that and figure out what works best for you. Uranus in the 10th house. 10th house matters. Is your career.
That's Capricorn. That's Capricorn, right?
Yes. So you insist on maintaining your independence, especially regarding your career. So that may include social activism, computers and technology, astrology, science. All of these things are very Uranian. You always have an original viewpoint, and professional opportunities can arise out of that. So you may just get like streaks of enlightenment that will have a positive impact on your professional career. You are very rebellious to work in like a strictly hierarchical structure or organization. So you will likely gravitate towards a more entrepreneurial type environment or as an independent contractor. So you can be employed or collaborate with those big corporations, but if you're expected to navigate within the structure, it won't serve you well if you have that placement, because don't fence me in.
No.
You're going to rebel against it. It's going to end badly. So Uranus in the 11th house. This is all about you as it relates to social groups and friendships and organizations you may be included in. So you are a tolerant person with unusual aspirations and many highly intelligent, erratic friends who motivate you to achieve. Okay, so remember, this is very Aquarian energy, which rules Uranus. So this is like weirdos unite. But let's all share ideas and talk about it and celebrate each other's ideas and then riff off of each other and like benefit mankind. So people enter your life on a moment's notice, especially when you're involved with a cause, but then you can also just lose contact with them just as quickly. And it's okay. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You have many diverse friends and you have many diverse interests. And it's cool. Uranus in the 12th house, the last house. This is where mine is. It is the house of the subconscious and that which is unknown. It's the last house of the zodiac. They say it's a very spiritual house because it's the last before your soul ascends again. So if Uranus is in there, you're a freedom lover who requires independence, and you definitely rebel against constraints. Unusual forms of spirituality attract you. Shocking that I own a metaphysical shop. It just naturally comes.
That's a
Huh?
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I own a metaphysical shop?
This is a metaphysical shop.
Oh, no, I own it?
I own.
Oh, right.
It's shocking that I own one,
Yeah.
and this is my placement. You know, like it's just, Uranus, it's very rebellious and like, not rebellious, but unconventional.
I'm unconventional too.
Yeah, totally. You're very Aquarian.
Well, because Neptune is in where it's supposed to be.
Correct. So, if you have Uranus in the 12th house, unusual forms of spirituality attract you. You express your deepest individuality in solitude. So I definitely need my solitude for enlightenment and meditation. And flashes of intuition and insight do come from my core. So learning to pay attention to them is very important. So growing up, I would definitely have a lot of claircognizant thoughts that would just be like placed in my brain that would just appear out of nowhere. And I'd be like, I have these insights, and they were accurate, but I had no way of understanding or explaining it. But I think that's very Uranian, especially in the 12th house. So if that relates to you, delve deeper and spend time meditating and listen to it because it's the voice of your higher self. That wraps up Uranus in all of the signs as well as in the houses. Next week, I'm going to be traveling because we're going to a trade show. So we're taking a break next week. So not next week, but the following Sunday, I will be talking about Neptune.
The 20th.
Yeah. Thank you for that. The 20th, I will be back and we will be talking about Neptune. Okay? And then after that, we're going to do Pluto. And I'll touch on Chiron too during that. And then that's going to wrap up the series. But if you missed any of this, you can play it back on social media. We're going to be saving it. Okay? Great. Thank you all for being here. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.